This is honestly the hardest video I've had to make. When writing this list, I honest to God rewrote this at least 10 times. I'm not even joking. When you've seen as much movies as I have, it can actually become really hard and difficult to actually figure out what your favourite movie actually is. And that is what I pretty much suffered from when making this video. It's just that burning question in your mind that pops up every time someone asks you, what is your favourite movie of all time? Well, it's time for me to finally answer that burning question, as best I can, no matter how likely it is that my opinion will just pretty much change in the next few days. And there's also the fact that I have seen dozens upon dozens of movies. So, without further ado, just kick back, relax, grab a bucket of popcorn if you need it, and just for the love of God, just enjoy the video. Though you're probably not going to agree with my opinion in some cases, but who cares, I can do whatever I want, it's my video. Just before I begin, I do have a few honourable mentions. These are all movies that I love that unfortunately didn't quite make the list. Starting with Mad Max Fury Road, Predator, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Captain America Civil War, The Avengers, 300, The Accountant, The Nice Guys, The Thing, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Independence Day, Inside Out, Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens, Suicide Squad, yup, you better believe it, Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan, Deadpool, and Serenity. Man, I've seen so many movies. Anyway, on to number 10. Well, I can imagine that a few of you are going to be a little bit peed off at the fact that this movie isn't even higher on the list, let alone the top 5. Well, the fact of the matter is that A, this is my opinion, and B, there just so happen to be 9 other movies on this list that I love more than this film. That being said, this movie ain't on this list for no reason. This movie is by definition the perfect time travel movie. The characters in this are a joy to watch on screen, it's funny as hell, and the DeLorean is by far my favourite cinematic car, right next to the Batmobile. However, the thing that intrigues me the most about Back to the Future is that it not only visually explores the joys and wonders of time travel, but it also focuses heavily on the consequences that time travel can bring. Although the film is as lighthearted as you can get, it is actually really interesting seeing how much damage you can do to the future and your very existence just by changing one small thing in the past. I think that's a really interesting concept that I think is slightly lacking in most of the more recent time traveling movies I've seen. Back to the Future is my favourite time travel movie because it fully understands this element and executes this plot point to damn near perfect results. And number 9? I will admit I'm not big on guilty pleasure action movies outside of the Fast and Furious franchise, but dang is this movie a lot of fun. This was the action movie that introduced audiences to a grounded, more realistic and small take on the action genre as a whole, and in doing so revolutionized the genre entirely. Although it's not just that one detail that I just love about this movie, though admittedly that does add to it, it's how thrilling and realistic the action is and how real it feels despite how campy and cheesy the movie can really get. But even in that area, the movie shines with Bruce Willis's genius one-liners and the film's marvelous sense of humor. No, seriously, this film is absolutely hilarious. But to be totally honest with you, this movie isn't just here on this list because of all that, though once again, that does add to it, but it's mostly because Die Hard is the dictionary definition of the word awesome. I mean, come on, you can't deny that Bruce Willis running around barefoot with a machine gun in hand in a tower infested with criminals is the perfect ingredient for an awesome action movie. I mean, come on, that's like the perfect action movie in my opinion. And now for number 8. I know, in my review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I very clearly said it was my favourite Marvel movie. And while that is very much so, the first Guardians of the Galaxy was and forever will be one of the greatest cinematic experiences I'll ever have. When I first walked into a screening of this movie, I honestly thought the movie was going to be utter crap. It looked like the biggest Star Wars ripoff I had ever seen. But then the movie started, and, well, you know the rest of the story. The characters are all fantastic, and the actors playing them are equally fantastic. The film is absolutely hilarious and packed with amazing action sequences, and you have to be honest, love or hate this movie, you cannot deny that the soundtrack for this movie is freaking brilliant. Seriously, who would have thought that a movie about a ragtag bunch of outlaws going on adventures alongside a talking raccoon would be a smash hit? Then again, considering how amazing the film turned out in the end, I think it's safe to say that Guardians of the Galaxy was one heck of a surprise hit. Number 7! If you are in fact a long-time follower of this channel, then you well know that I am a huge fan of Batman. He is my favourite comic book character of all time. What separates Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight from literally every other Batman movie is that Christopher Nolan somehow managed to make Batman as realistic as possible and still managed to deliver us an awesome superhero movie. This was the movie that made audiences believe that Batman could actually exist. Believe me, I could go on about how amazing Christian Bale is as Batman, or the film's spectacular use of practical effects, or the incredibly thrilling and authentic action sequences. But the real selling point of this movie here is Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Clown Prince of Crime himself, the Joker. All the best lines of dialogue are delivered beautifully by Heath Ledger. Still to this day, there has never been a villain more intimidating, scary, or as crazy as Heath Ledger's Joker in a comic book movie. There is literally no words to describe Heath Ledger's Joker. None. And now, for number 6. Yes, I am fully aware that I am a teenager in high school who would much rather watch comic book movies, intriguing science fiction movies, or raunchy comedies more than I'd watch a kids film from the 90s. That said, there are a few exceptions to that. And is The Lion King one of those exceptions? You damn right! The animation here is gorgeous. Even now there are so many shots in this movie that take your breath away just based on how good looking it is. The characters in this film are unforgettable, in particular Timon and Pumbaa, who have the most memorable song in this movie. I mean, come on, tell me you didn't listen to Hakuna Matata 250,000 times on CD on the way to preschool. The Lion King is one of those many movies that I have watched over the years that has never really escaped my love for it, no matter how many times I watch it. This movie is absolutely amazing and, in my opinion, one of Disney's very best. And now, for the top 5. This film had to be in the top 5. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if it wasn't in the top 5 at least. But seriously, La La Land more than deserves this spot on the list. For starters, this film is beautiful to look at. There are still so many shots that are burned into my head, and seeing as how this film is a musical, you can pretty much predict that I'm about to say in approximately 10 seconds that the music in this is fantastic. And well, you're not wrong. La La Land has some of the best musical numbers I have ever seen, with a personal favourite being City of Stars. The dance sequences are masterfully choreographed, in particular a sequence where Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone are dancing in front of an LA sunset, and the singing from pretty much everyone in this movie is amazing. The romance between our two leads is realised perfectly. It doesn't follow the usual romance cliches, making it pretty much the most original and unique romance in a film I've ever seen. But overall, La La Land is just downright fun from start to finish, even if it can get a little dark sometimes. And number 4? This is one of those movies that I find really inspiring. Yes, it is basically another tale of an underdog hero rising up to become something great, but the way that plotline is handled here feels truly unique and original, and like I said earlier, inspiring. However, what really gets me about this film are two things in particular. This is a boxing movie, and as you can imagine, there are fight scenes in this movie, and boy, they are brutal. I don't know too much about how the film was made, but when someone gets punched, you really feel the impact. I don't know if it's the way they shot this film or how they edited it, but they look and feel so unbelievably real, it's actually scary. And the other thing about this film that always gets me hooked is the father-son relationship that is formed between Rocky and Adonis. That relationship is so touching, and I love the way it's explored throughout this film. And it's actually really enthralling, and the film also deals with themes and concepts that I wasn't expecting it to. And it dealt with those themes in a really interesting and surprisingly tear-jerking way. Number 3. Do I honestly need to explain myself for this one? Not only is this one of the best musicals ever made with one of the catchiest musical numbers you will ever see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson of all people perform, though that does add to it, but it's unbelievably entertaining, beautifully animated, and superbly voice acted by pretty much the entire cast. On top of that, the film also introduces audiences to what is by far Disney's most badass princess in the shape of the titled character, Moana, and I seriously have to give Disney props for exploring Polynesian culture in this film and doing it in a really interesting way. The biggest praise I can really give Moana is that we have a Disney movie that isn't about a princess falling in love with a prince, or an underdog hero doing exactly the same thing. And I'm looking at you, Frozen! Seriously though, If you have not seen this movie, I urge you to go and check this out, and if you don't, well, your loss. And we're down to number 2. This is one of those movies that is, to me, perfect in quite literally every way. The directing by Ridley Scott here is phenomenal, the attention to detail in this film is actually unbelievable, and the film is also brilliantly acted. Sigourney Weaver steals the show as Ellen Ripley. To this day, Ellen Ripley has been regarded as one of the greatest characters ever put to screen, and rightfully so. Another thing that I love about this movie is the title character, the alien. This thing is by far the scariest creature I've ever seen on screen. Every time the alien is on screen, my fear levels go up to the maximum level. To put it short, this movie is scary as hell. There are so many scenes in this movie that had my mouth gaping open in terror or outright screaming, in particular the chestburster scene. To put it short for the second time in a row, Alien is a perfect movie and by far Ridley Scott's best film. Seriously though, it's that good. If you haven't seen it, then... come on, man. And now for the moment we've all been waiting for. Yup, I'm putting all 3 of these movies on here. I tried to pick one out of the 3, but I honestly couldn't. I love all 3 of these movies just as much as each other. To me, there's almost no comparing them. To me, these movies are better than each other in their own ways. A New Hope is a fantastic story about a simple farm boy becoming the galaxy's greatest hero. The Empire Strikes Back is a dark and thrilling science fiction drama movie with one of the greatest plot twists of all time, and Return of the Jedi is just a fun action-adventure movie. I know a lot of people try to compare these movies and decide which is the best one and which is the worst one, and admittedly I've done the same in the past, but there's just so many iconic things about all 3 of these movies that it's virtually impossible for me to even rank them now. Everything about these movies, to me, is just amazing. Everything from the characters, story, the groundbreaking visual effects, the amazing action sequences and space battles, and even the freaking lightsaber fights. I mean, seriously, I can quote all 3 of these movies without even having to watch the movies to make sure I said it right. I've grown up with this trilogy of films, as you know, and ever since I first saw those films 10 years ago, they have been my favourite movies of all time ever since. So, boys and girls, gentlemen and ladies, and gentle dogs, if dogs watch YouTube. Do they watch YouTube? They probably do. Anyway, thank you for watching, do hope you enjoyed the video, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I will indeed see you in the next one. And yes, I know I cheated by putting 3 movies on one spot, but oh well, this is my video, my list, so I can do whatever I want, so don't judge me. Anyway, bye.